Good morning and welcome. You tuned to the Leg Up, your weekly thoroughbred preview podcast, and we've got a big day at Trentham and Te Rapa. We're going to run for a few of those races shortly with our usual suspects, minus Paul Mawadi, I see, but it would be remiss of us if we didn't acknowledge and mention the passing of Megan Taylor yesterday at Ashburton. Tragic scenes and something we never like to see. It was a very sad day, wasn't it? It's a bit sombre around here this morning, Steve, to be fair.
100%. Just heartbreaking, Thaddeus, and straight on the back of Taiki, which was, 5-6 weeks ago. It's, I'm kind of a little bit lost for words, and condolences go out to the family and friends and the whole racing community, because we're all one here, and whether it's a positive news or a negative news, which occurred yesterday. But very sobering, and as I mentioned, best wishes go out to the family. Yeah,
100% echo those comments, rather. Morning, BP. Look, we watch a lot of racing, don't we? And sometimes you forget that jockeys have to go to work, and it's not a safe environment at times. And it was just tragic to see yesterday, wasn't it?
It was a real tragedy, it is the toughest gig going around. And when you go to work and do something you love, and not come back, it's just hard for everybody. It's hard for those that are close to Megan, of course, the Andrew Carston stable, really thinking of them at this terrible stage. Of course, she was apprenticed to Andrew Carston, and just a young up-and-coming jockey that was starting to make some moves in the South Island, and it's just nothing but a tragedy really with what happened out of Ashburton yesterday afternoon. So as you said, guys, the whole racing industry, we do find a way to bind together under these real trying times, and this is again, and unfortunately after what happened in August, losing Taiki Yanagida, now we go through this again, and it's going to be a tough one for the whole of the industry, and especially in the South Island, to try and swallow this one, because it's just a really hard one to talk about, isn't it? But 2 in 1 year, losing 2 great people out of our industry, it's a tragedy for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a bit raw at the moment, as you can imagine. But as everyone says, all best wishes to friends and family around Megan Taylor. It was a sad loss yesterday at Ashburton. Okay, guys. Well, on that sombre note, let's talk about last week, Steve. Where were we? What happened? I'm struggling to remember what happened last week.
Big day at Te Rapa, Waikato Cup Day.
Of course it was.
Obviously, the weather didn't quite play its part, but I thought the performance of the day had to be with Cinerama in the feature. The Kelai Zuzu at Group 2 feature with fillies and mares over 1,600 metres. Look, she didn't run a flash speed rating. I think it was 2 lengths below par, but I think you've got to trust the eye. She was travelling. She found that the gun spot just probably 1 pair closer than what I had her in the map. I think Cheaper and Divorce potentially helped that, purely on the scratching in the morning, but Craig got her out at the top of the straight, peeled off 2 or 3 horses. The race was over at the top of the straight, and she was far too good in the concluding stages. So, look, she'll head towards the Zabeel on Boxing Day, and that just looks like an ideal race and a chance to pick up a Group 1 on her CV, 2,000 metres, weight for age. Will be at Pukekohe right-handed. I don't think that's any dramas. You've got to trust the stable and Alan around that circumstance. But just a little bit of news around the Zabeel, because it looks to me, just hearing through the traps, that it could be quite a small field, just with the low numbers in terms of 2,000 metres and weight for age horses at the moment and up and running. But there is a little bit of a whisper that we may have a Chris Waller trained galloper come over for the race.
Is this breaking news? Is this breaking news, Steve?
This is breaking news. I'm challenging Aidan Rodley here. Breaking news, Mick Gurr in the lot. And Polly Gray. Now, I don't know if it's 100% confirmed, but I am hearing through the traps that this horse may come over. As we know, it used to be trained out of the Fawcett barn before it went over to Sydney, and it's done the job in some nice races over in Sydney. And the long-term forecast, unfortunately, is not flash for the next 10 or so days up north in particular. So we know Polly Gray would love any aqua, potentially. The more rain, the better her chances. And look, she's an 8-year-old mare, yet to tick the Group 1 box, but maybe look out for her this time next week in terms of acceptances. And as we know, if it's still under the trainership of Chris Waller, he's yet to train a Group 1 winner here in his hometown or home country in NZ.
Okay, that is interesting. Breaking news, BP. How's that for the leg up? Good day at Te Rapa though, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. I wonder if he'll bring a certain jockey with him as well from across the Tasman to finish the job maybe. Watch the space. That would be unbelievable, wouldn't it? And as you said, the forecast is not great. The long-range forecast, we know that can change. The forecast is changing day to day at the moment, but if that rain does hang about, that will bring Polly Gray quite a serious contender, you would imagine. Yeah, and again, about the rain, we had that on Saturday, didn't we, out of Te Rapa, and it just meant that we were looking good. We started the day in a track condition where it was in a good spot, and then it just pelted down through a couple of those feature races, and by the end of the day it actually cleared up and it was fine again, but it did the damage and it pushed that track out. So we'll talk about the conditions for today's Saturday's race meeting too, because it could have an effect again with the rain that is about.
No, 100%. Where is Paul Mawadi, Steve, by the way? We haven't even talked about him yet.
Well, put it this way, I've got a photo of him down Courtney Place at around about 12:30 this morning, so he was a very low percentage chance of making it today.
Okay. Enough said. BP, we'll come back to you for your Maidener of the Week. They didn't forget to back your Maidener of the Week either.
Yeah, nothing but good things happen at Courtney Place, though, I thought, especially at that time of the day as well.
Midnight,
so yeah. I'm surprised he's not here. Yeah, let's go to Wednesday. Boy, this was a win, wasn't it? And I'll tell you what, there was a run of the second horse that just says, back me next time. Master Brutus wins the race. Big effort from an outside gate with Boston just nailing this race. But you could say the second horse as well, and Fernandez, who drew inside Master Brutus, has been able to show that barrier speed and finishes into second position. I mean, if you want to look at it from two perspectives, Master Brutus could win again next time to the races, put a piece of paper over Master Brutus and pretend he's not there, and just watch Fernandez. I'm on Fernandez next time to the races, who's finished into second position there. There's a huge margin back to the rest. Pretty keen to make that the maiden of the week.
You know, fair enough, Steve. Numbers look like they stacked up as well.
Yeah, they went very hard, 2.1 lengths above par. That's open class, standard 35 and change. There was 4 1,200 metre races back to back at Ruakaka, and if you compare to the 600, they went out 6 lengths quicker than the next quickest. So they did run along. The 2 horses that quinelled the race had drawn outside gates. There was just too much money and the market was far too strong in the last 5 minutes to suggest they were going to go back with Opie Boston aboard from a wide gate. They're always going to show intent, and it was a gun ride from Opie to put the horse in the race and in the first 2 and running. And look, overall figures, 1.2 lengths above par, so that's enough encouragement to follow the first 2. And I don't know if I'd be following any horse in behind the first 2 purely on the race shape. It warranted some horse to come back and make some ground late, but there was little to be seen in terms of the distance from second to third. But on pedigree, being by Swiss Ace, Master Brutus, so you'd think maybe potentially 1,400, but they don't get too much past 7 furlongs, the progeny of Swiss Ace. It's been a good week for Swiss Ace. Yeah, Rainberg went at Sandown during the week, and ex-Kiwi, and a couple other winners locally as well. So a stallion that continues to go under the radar potentially over the shorter trips here in NZ.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, team, let's get to the race previews. We've got Trentham and Te Rapa. We're going to focus on Trentham predominantly. And we want to start with track conditions, Steve, because what have we got here at Trentham? BP mentioned there's a bit of rain about. Tell me we're going to get away with this.
I'm not sure. Again, the forecast for race day is grim. There's rain forecasted tomorrow and around about 24 hours. As you see there graphically, currently a soft 6, rail on the true position. We had the meeting, the Captain Cook meeting a couple of weeks ago, which was run on a soft 6. The rail also was on a true position format that day. So, look, I'm hoping that it stays around a 6, but look, I've got question marks purely on the rain that is forecasted on race day, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we've got to deal with what we can, and we'll start with the Manawatu Challenge Stakes. That's race number 7. The Bramco Granite Marble Manawatu Challenge Stakes. Over the 1,400 for the fillies and mares, Steve. Wait for age.
It's a Coventina Bay Darcy Labella, $3 each to 2. In terms of dollars invested, Darcy Labella holds 5 times more money than the 7 in Coventina Bay, but as it stands, they remain at their opening price. Brando at $6.50, clear in that third line. Bell Clear at $9. Double figures around Providence provides Jaws Barrier 1 on Saturday. Packing Rockstar, a little bit of a firmer there, 18 to 14, and then best of the rest is Deerfield and Colorado Star. Colorado Star, should mention, 31 firmed into 21. Look, overall summary, there's a couple of firmers there in Packing Rockstar and also Colorado Star in that middle market. But in terms of the point end of the market, Darcy Labella is the lead.
Okay, talk us through a speed map as well, where we've got you, Steve. What are we sort of suggesting here? Because Coventina Bay tends to get out of her ground, and Darcy Labella potentially can put itself in a race.
Yeah, I've got Deerfield to lead. Look, he led in the Captain Cook at around about the 1,400 metre mark, and I think they'll go even tempo, but I'll come back to the overall speed shortly. But Deerfield I've got leading. I think Bell Clear and Providence Provides will look to hold a forward spot from their low gates. Tina Komenagi's on Colorado Star, and Lisa Allpress is on Old Town Road. Now, those two horses have drawn sticky gates, and I just feel there might be a little bit of intent from those two riders, horses that can show tactical speed and put themselves in a top position in terms of the map. So just watch on the 6 and the 5 in the first furlong with 2. Look, no knock around Darcy Labella on the map. I've got her somewhere around midfield. She should be stalking a little bit of cover there midfield, Darcy Labella. Look, Grules has no option on Coventina Bay just to go back from that wide gate. You see second outer on Coventina Bay. Look, she's a horse that shows low tactical speed. At times when she's drawn gates, she's been able to set herself in the first half, but from a wide gate, she should be back in the last third. And outside that, look, back to the overall tempo, I think Deerfield will lead up as he did around about the 1400 metre mark in the Captain Cook. They went out very strong in the Captain Cook, 9 lengths above par to the 600. So just on that score, I think they'll go at least even tempo, and it should suit all runners.
Okay, BP. We've got the benchmark here in Coventina Bay, and we've got the up-and-coming mare here in Darcy Labella. It's an intriguing little battle, isn't it?
It is, and yeah, the speed should be genuine in the race, shouldn't it, with a runner like Deerfield in the race, who went super. He really did go a great race to run 4th in the Group 1 last time out, and he comes back to 1400 metres. Why can't he set up a strong tempo and be hard to peg back? Of course, Sam Wynn and Tina Komenagi, they were involved in that fall yesterday out of Ashburton, so I have noticed that they're down not to ride at tomorrow's race meeting at Trentham, so I guess we'll be watching to see who the replacements will be around those horses throughout the race meeting there out of Trentham. But yeah, Darcy Labella comes in with up and running form, with Coventina Bay's having her second run back. We know she's a Group 1 performer, but I guess it's just where she's at for this race. It's hard to get a true line on what happened with her first up run. She just got back in an impossible position to be winning the race, and she's beaten, 3 horses home. So we know how good she is, and she might come on really quickly second up with Craig Grules aboard. But it's just very hard to go past this form, isn't it, with what she's done, how she's just flying at the moment in Darcy Labella. And in the end, how easy that was. That was a very simple victory for her, and quite soft on the line from Darcy Labella in the Auckland Thoroughbred Breeders. And look, she just charged through the ground. We know she can get through any type of track condition. If it does rain and it gets worse than a soft 6, no issue. And if it doesn't, if it stays where it is, well, that's not a problem either. So she really does start ticking the right boxes, doesn't she, Stephen, around Darcy Labella V, if you're just looking at it from a point of view of her versus Coventina Bay?
Yeah, I think she's, look, I think Coventina Bay, just on Coventina Bay, she's still 1 run away. You go back to Coventina Bay at Te Rapa, and look, she accounted for 30% of the turnover, Coventina Bay. She was heavily punted until the last 10 minutes of betting. And she was very soft, 280 out to 480 from memory, Coventina Bay, and she ran accordingly. You'd say it's a little bit disappointing on the eye, but in terms of the marketplace, it was spot on. Now, I just feel that she needs too much improvement from first to second up. I think she's a 1 run behind in terms of a betting proposition, Coventina Bay. But look, just back on Darcy Labella, I've got her clearly the horse to beat in this race in the feature, the Challenge Stakes, and she will start fave. She will start fave. Forget the $3 each of 2. Look, I don't think there's a huge fat on the bone in terms of meat around the bone on Darcy Labella's price at $3. I think the fact that the matter that Coventina Bay will drift from the $3, and it might even get closer to $4 on race day, Coventina Bay. So, but money's indicating Darcy Labella will start fave, and in terms of the bet count as well, that's encouraging around the fans of number 8, Darcy Labella. And look, earlier this campaign, I would have had a question mark over 7 furlongs, but she's ticked that box well and truly in the last 2 starts. You go back to the Taranaki Breeders, and then the Pukekohe, and then up at Pukekohe in the Auckland Breeders. Just on speed rating, she improved 2 lengths from the Naki to the Pukekohe feature. So she's still on the upward spiral, Darcy Labella. She maps beautifully, in particular in front of Coventina Bay, which is crucial when you're talking about the pointy end of the market. And as BP alluded, there's no drama whatsoever around track conditions. If it rains, a couple of ticks, but if it stays at a soft 6, it's 1 tick around Darcy Labella. So she's clearly the horse to beat and one of the best plays on the day.
Okay, very keen, Steve. There's another race replay we want to have a look at is the Canterbury Breeders BP, and it brings us Belclare and Providence Provides. Providence Provides a little bit unlucky, as it tends to be, but Belclare, this was a strong win. It's in the market at $9.
Yeah, she was a very good winner this day, wasn't she? And we know that she operates very well at Trentham. She's unbeaten at this venue so far. Don't have too much of an issue if it does sort of go beyond a 6 track condition either. I think she's a really strong top 3, top 4 chance in the race. And if you were trying to find something away from those top 2 in the market, yeah, Providence Provides was unlucky in that race. I guess the one thing I have an issue with Providence Provides is where does the track end up? Because she can't go on anything worse than probably an 8, to be honest. 7 might be her limit. Once it gets beyond a 7, she's no go. She's in the no go zone. As Providence Provides in terms of trying to get through a heavy surface. And she's drawn 1. She's a front runner. She will be interesting in the race if she does get the track condition, because, as I said, she can put herself there. You've got that Deerfield pressure coming from a middle barrier draw. She could be a chance, Providence Provides, but at this stage I'm sort of waiting to see what the track's going to be before we sort of nail her down as a selection. But yeah, Belclair, off the back of what we've seen there and her Trentham performances, I'd say she's a big top 4 chance.
Belclair, Steve?
Look, very good. Speed rating was high in the breeders down at Riccarton over Cup Week. Just on the figures that she produced that day, which was a PB, to what she needs to beat the likes of Darcy Labella and Coventina Bay, she probably needs to improve 2 or 3 lengths, Belclair, but not to say she can't slightly improve. I don't know if she can find 2 or 3 lengths from that last start performance down at Christchurch. But look, the one negative around Belclair, even though she maps well with Michael McNabb doing the riding, is the track conditions. I think she would have wanted it around about a 5, probably no worse than a 6. So again, a bit of a question mark around Belclair if she is able to topple the 7 and the 8, the 8 and the 7. But look, I think she's found well enough in the market at $9. I thought the question mark around the prices is Brando at $6.50. I think he'll ease on race day, just purely down to track conditions. I know he takes a lot of money on the working week, Thursday and Friday, but in terms of race day, Brando, look, he can be in a bit of an enigma at times, Brando. We know that.
He's hard to trust, isn't he, Hunty? He's hard to trust.
He is, and I put him in the same bracket as Belclair. He wants this race run today rather than tomorrow, and if it gets any worse than a 6, Brando, he does come back to the pack and he just loses his sprint / turn of foot, what he may have over a lot of rivals, Brando. And yeah, he's just too inconsistent to get my money, Brando. Look, he could put this field away and you'd go, yeah, that's the real Brando. That's the 3-year-old Brando that we saw a couple of seasons ago. But as a betting proposition, with the rain that's forecasted, I think that $6.50 is a bottom price, and he may even challenge third favourite around Belclair come race start.
BP, you'd echo those comments around Brando. Enigma is probably a reasonable phrase for him, really.
Look, it is, and because we have seen it. We've seen it in small doses, his best performances, and then we've also seen his worst performances in between times when he's been well favoured. So that's the hard part about having a serious bet. If you want to stump up and have a go here on Brando, you're doing one with your hand over your eyes and just going, let's go, let's back it and hope that, gee, we don't want to bet like that. He really is. If he starts getting out to a track that's a little bit too wet, he'll drift in price. I keep looking at this race and thinking that Deerfield just seems to be one of those horses that's gone out to a ridiculous price. I don't know if about him being a winning chance in the race. I mean, we know where he's going to be in the race. He's at $21 and he's going to be in front. Surely he runs a top 4. Where's his top 4 price? Hang on, let me have a look here, because I'll probably back it at the same time. $3.20 is the price. So $3.20 for him to finish in the top 4. And if he can back up what he did in the Group 1, we've seen him perform here at this venue. Doesn't matter if it rains. Yeah, look, I think he's a huge top 4 chance, Deerfield.
He's only swamped late over the mile, Pops, last time in a strong race, pre-defers win.
Yeah. So,
and they went hard. 9 lengths above par to the 600.
You said that, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Pops, here? Packing Rockstar wasn't a bad effort last time out, getting home reasonably strongly. Money for Colorado Star and Old Town Road as well. Anything else we need to put into the thin end of first fours and the like?
Probably Old Town Road. Yeah, Old Town Road's been, he's been running great, hasn't he, lately? He was beaten in behind Seamus last time out, and we know that he's raced well through the spring period when the rain was about at Hawke's Bay. So, again, no issue if it is going to continue to rain. They're all good, genuine trifecta and first 4 chances. But, look, I'm sure a lot of people have looked at this race. They immediately looked at 7 and 8, 8 and 7. I've gone with Darcy Labella because of the reasons of being that she is up and running. She has been super through her previous starts. But you don't want to write off a Group 1 performer like Coventina Bay, and I know that her performance was really below par last time to the races, but I would not be surprised that she does turn up and puts in a big effort here and can test the favourite, or what we're saying will be the outright favourite. But I've marked her down as my second selection in Coventina Bay with Deerfield. I think the best overall play in terms of a top 4 chance.
Yeah, I like that top 4 price.
Where do you see the market finishing off tomorrow afternoon, BP? Do you see Coventina Bay potentially touching $4? And is that an attractable price where you'd dive in, or would you want a little bit more?
Yeah, I think she'll get around that $4 mark. It's a funny one because you also take a lot of money for her early, don't you? This is a horse that most of the time, as soon as your market's open, there's an early bet on Coventina Bay. But obviously that hasn't happened in the first couple of days of trading. I would imagine she gets around that $4 quote. No, I'm happy to stick with Darcy Labella. She'll probably get, 270, 280 zone, potentially, around there. I wonder if there'll be a boost or not. Is this a boost race? I'm not sure.
Very good, very good.
Alan Sharrock boost runners, punters are loving them at the moment. But yeah, Darcy Labella will be my top selection.
Well, to talk about Taranaki being torn, BP. No, they won't know what to do with Alan Sharrock and Robbie Patterson sharing the favouritism.
That's right. They just might have to load up on the Quinella, maybe.
That's it. Yeah. You with Darcy Labella, Steve?
Yeah, I've got her clearly on top, and I think $3 is her peak price. She won't stay any longer than that. Just with the comments I made earlier around Darcy Labella, and I thought she was the play of the day.
Very good. Okay, very good. Okay, guys, race number 8 on the card. Trentham as the Manawatu Cup. We've got the Manawatu Cup back, the Humphreys Construction Manawatu Cup, 2,300 metres. Steve, run us through this market.
Yeah, a bit of a lead here around the favourite and 4 Charms Star out of the Inform Lisa Ladder stable. Michael McNabb does the riding here. Sits just off the minimum, 53.5. Drawn the ace. $5 we posted here in the TAB on Wednesday afternoon. Now trading at $4.20. In front of Soprano Supreme at $5.50. La Flora Bell at $6. Platinum Invader, the stablemate of the current fave, at $9, just out of turn. La Vida Vishvi also out a full turn, 9 out to 10. Merida Lane at $11. Margaret Jean, always well-backed horse, purely around the Go Racing Syndicate on the Thursday and Friday leading into race day, 14 to 12. Pet Talk 13. Sugunto, Sticky Gate for Lisa Allpress at $18. And best of the rest is Far Sight and Okoya, 21 each of 2. But look, overall summary, Affirma, outside Margaret Jean, has to be of number 4 and Charm Star 5 into 4.2. Look,
they all come through this Wanganui Cup, or the bulk of them, BP. Charm Star, La Flora Bella, Platinum Invader. So, yeah, quite compressed up the top there amongst those chances.
Yep, and that looks to be the obvious form reference, doesn't it, around those that are in the market. And La Flora Bella was the winner of this race, and we got a good detailed form around La Flora Bella last week from Stephen Hunt about her chances for this race, of course, with a little early preview on the Manawatu Cup. And this is her winning here, beating home Charm Star. And I guess, as you said last week, Stephen, that thought of her going up in distance is going to be that little query to 2,300 metres.
Thank you, BP.
Yeah, you've got this La Flora Bell form sussed, haven't you, Steve?
I have. Well, it definitely didn't get beat last Saturday, I can tell you that. But anyway, look, the race shape did suit. She was in a prime position, just in behind the speed. Look out, they've gone very, very slow on the Whanganui Cup, over 2,040 metres. It did really suit for those horses on speed. Look, I do have a question mark. I think the tempo looks even enough. There's a few horses that are drawn wide, will look to go forward and generate some speed for the first half of the running. They might look to slack in mid-race, but I think overall it'll be a fairly solid cup. And there's nowhere to hide at Trentham in terms of a staying event, just on the dynamic circumference of the track. So, my question mark is 2,300 around La Flora Bell. I thought she was probably, her peak was around that 2,000, 2,100 metres. So she may look the winner halfway down the straight, but just got a question mark in that last furlong or two.
Okay, well, the horse that splits them, those top 3 that we just saw there, Platinum Invader, La Flora Bell and Charm Star, is Soprano Supreme, Steve. It was a good win last time out in the 75 grade.
Outstanding win, outstanding. And visually, beautiful, but if you crunch the numbers, she had no right in winning this. They've gone out very slow to the 600. They've dashed home her last 200. was 11.90, which was the fourth fastest on the day, and only beaten by Cinerama, Prise de Feu, and Waitak, which you'd all have to say are 3 Group 1 horses. Potentially the 3-year-old is an up-and-coming Group 1 horse, but she had to be very good. You see at the horses, the majority of them don't change position from the 400 metre mark to the winning post. She was the only horse to make significant ground. There's the numbers. They've gone out very slow, tick under 11 lengths to the 600. Now that's open class figures in terms of the last 600, so they're bang on par there. The overall race, I don't think that's a knock. In terms of the 75 grade, stepping up to open class, there's really not too much between that grade of horses in terms of what numbers they're producing. But yeah, she was phenomenal, and she loves a little bit of give in the track. There's been the odd excuse this prep. She hit Ruakaka on a genuine good track. I just don't think she let down on that occasion. A couple of race shapes didn't quite suit her in between times, but she was phenomenal that day at Te Rapa. It was race 1 on the card. Her sectionals were phenomenal, comparable to some really top horses that performed later in the day. And yeah, I've got her as the number 1 selection, Soprano Supreme.
Would it be hard to get your class rating up to above par if you've gone out 11 lengths slower to the 600 metre mark? So it was such a slow first half of the race.
Yeah, look, it
Is
does
it
impact.
difficult to
it
get
does
it?
impact. There's more weight graded on what the horses produce in terms of race shape for the last 600.
Yeah.
V up to this.
Right.
Look, the overall time is never going to be flash, but that's compensated by what you can produce in the last 600. But look, her figures as a 4-year-old last season were very good. She ran some really nice races. The stable had a decent opinion around Soprano Supreme to take her to Brisbane. She performed well in Brisbane and a couple of assignments there. She's come back here. Like I mentioned, I just felt there was a couple of excuses that she ran below par, because she's always been well found in the market at 75 grade. But I just feel on the minimum 53.5 or 53 kegs, which I love in these open class staying races, looking for those horses that sit in the middle to low range in terms of the weight. She's on the way up. And as I mentioned, the figures she produced in those concluding stages at Te Rapa were phenomenal.
Okay, BP looks competitive, Soprano Supreme, but chances don't end there. I mean, we've got Lavita Vishvi, Marietta Lane, Margaret Jean in play, Pet Talk. So there's a few double figures that could lay a bit of a claim here as well.
For sure, yeah. I mean, Soprano Supreme's one of those horses that I know they had a really good rap on through the autumn period. Obviously won that race at Rotorua before going to Brisbane, and they ran a great race. Was the Gold Coast Cup, went running second on a heavy track and was only beaten a small margin. They've just been waiting to find that form from her again, and it's taken a little while for her to sort of rev up this preparation. But man, when she pushed out to 2,400 metres, how good was she in that race? I think she has to be a strong contender now that she's got herself in form. But yeah, you're right, Thad, there is a lot of horses here, and this is we've spoken about a couple of Cups races already this year where they've both been like this. Counties Cup, Waikato Cup, they've both had these middle market runners from $9 through to about $17, where you could almost pick them all off and say they've got a decent chance for whatever reason. And this is the same again. Some of them are coming in on the 53. A couple of the other horses are at the top of the handicaps, horses like Platinum Invader and look, even Pep Talk. I think Pep Talk's probably still worthy of a chance, even though he's got to give 3.5 kilos to a horse like Soprano Supreme and 3 kilos to the favourite and Charm Star, purely because he is a horse that is very hard to get past when he's up and going. When he is up and running, like he has been this campaign, and he's run third to Marietta Lane recently, there's no reason why he can't run in the money. But of course, he's having to give weight to some of those other horses in the race. But I'll put him in my numbers because he's been good to me, and I think he's a horse who's running well this campaign. Look, overall, I find it pretty hard to split Charm Star and Soprano Supreme. I guess if the rain comes, is that where the Margaret Jean money's coming from? I know you mentioned Go Racing syndications like to get involved, but she's a horse, Stephen, that's been able to get through some wet ground. I know she went on a soft 5 last time to the races, but that win at Hawke's Bay on Livermore Day comes back to memory around how she's performed there. Lavita Vishvi, I mean, that horse was enormous from coming from nowhere to win in a 75 graded race. I guess that's another horse who comes into it if the rain's about.
Yeah, I think Lavita Vishvi, the last horse you mentioned there, BP, has a similar profile to Soprano Supreme, a last start 75 winner, heading into open class, sits on the minimum 53 as you mentioned, no dramas around track conditions. A horse they do like to punt on race day, Lavita Vishvi, $10. I think they'll attract a few punters, in particular early stages tomorrow around Levita Vishvi. Look, Platinum Invader just has to carry the big weight of 59.
What's the target with Platinum Invader? Is that Auckland Cup or something of that nature? Or?
Yeah, I think they're heading up to the Queen Elizabeth,
Yep.
which is on New Year's Day at
Sure.
Pukekohe. I think, what he's looking for, Platinum Invader, is a dry deck. He's just been hindered by the rain that's been around in the last few months. They're just praying for a dry deck, and that's why he was scratched last Saturday at Te Rapa. So, for everything to work out, and if he's going to carry a big weight, he needs everything in his favour, and one of them is the track conditions. So he'd be of a query if he starts if the rain hits tomorrow. And just back on the original horse you mentioned, was it Margaret Jean? Look, it's a hard horse to gauge in terms of, is that calculated money, because it's always well punted on Thursday and Friday, but you're right, it's a horse that has operated thus far this campaign on rain affected going, in particular last day of Hawke's Bay Carnival.
Okay. BP, what are your final numbers here in the Manawa 2 Cup?
Well, I guess we need to look at weather as well, because I think if Charm Star, we've seen this horse scratched recently, was it last Saturday, from the Waikato Cup, and that was due to the track conditions. I guess we need to look at where things might sit there with the rain if it does arrive again. So one of those ones, if you can look ahead and find the right sort of weather forecast for tomorrow. I'm with her just. I don't find much between both her and Soprano Supreme as the overall winner in the race. And I'll keep Pep Talk in there. I'll throw Pep Talk in there as a top 3 and top 4 chance at odds.
Good $14 for the Pep Talk currently. Steve, it sounds like you're pretty keen on Soprano Supreme to win the race.
Yeah, just can't ignore those sectionals when the race shape was against her last start, albeit 75 grade, but that's accounted with the weight that she has to carry now, 53, sitting on the minimum. And I think it'll be an even true tempo throughout, which will favour most horses. But yeah, and again, no knock. I think a summer rate, she'll get away with it if there's showers tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. I see some money for Lily Laguna as well, Steve. John Barry.
Again, a horse that's well found on Thursday and Friday. I think that money will dry up. But look, she's operated at times on a rain-affected track, so no real knock there. And at $21, look, she's worth probably a 1/3 potential play.
Okay, bit of money Lily Laguna, bit of money Margaret Jean, as we mentioned, Charm Star and Soprano Supreme attracting most of the money at the top of that market. Okay, team, intermission time, and even though Paul is not with us, he's managed to get us another fascinating insert of Minute with Mawari. I think this week it might be Chrissy Bambury.
Hi, I'm Chrissy Bambury and I'm a professional horse trainer.
Who's been the biggest influence in racing for you?
There's probably been a few, but obviously Dad probably trained before me, so probably my father.
First car you ever owned?
Oh, a little Honda, I think it was, a Honda Civic.
Toilet paper over or under?
Over.
Most famous person in your phone contacts?
Ooh. No, that's a hard one.
Too many?
Yeah, too many.
Your go-to karaoke song?
Love Shack.
Favourite NRL team?
Parramatta Eels.
Favourite junk food?
Chocolate.
Who should be All Black coach?
Whoever wants to be.
Who has it easier, jockeys or trainers?
None of us.
Favourite board game?
Scrabble.
Union or league?
Union.
Favourite cocktail?
Rosebud.
Fill in the blank. The best Barrett brother is?
Geordie.
First celebrity crush?
Oh, I don't know, probably one of those guys from Five.
Which player would you most like to see at the Warriors next season?
Don't know.
Favourite movie?
Favourite movie, The Notebook.
Favourite horse you've ever trained?
Deerfield.
You can invite 3 people to a dinner party. Who are they?
Rosemary Myers, Danielle McCullum, and probably Brad Pitt.
Race you'd most like to win?
The Oaks.
A horse we should be keeping an eye out for this season?
Ooh, probably Sergio.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chrissy.
There Thank you to Chrissy Banbury. Notebook would be a favourite of yours too, BP, wouldn't it? It'd be one of your favourite movies.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and also probably the band that she mentioned there. Not for their looks, but obviously for their music.
90s child like me. Yeah,
90s child,
90s,
yeah. Certainly got a 5 CD at home somewhere.
Very good.
If you've got the feeling.
I'm almost disappointed. I'm always disappointed when the most famous people in their phone contacts isn't BP these days. He's pretty famous. He's
I
pretty
thought you might have mentioned the GOAT actually.
Yeah,
he's the most famous.
He didn't
there at
even
the
get
end.
invited to the dinner party either, which was a bit disappointing for Andrew, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was.
well.
It was.
Okay, team, we better move on. I want to go back and have a look at the 3-year-old race, Steve, and this is race number 2 on the card. The Pave Masters 1,200 metres for the 3-year-olds. An interesting 3-year-old race. Run us through this market.
Yeah, different forms aligning here. Time's Up heads the market at $4.20. 1 start, 1 win for Robbie Patterson. In front of Peppy Hart, 4.8. Rudyard, $6.50, just out 1 full point there. Firma has been around the 4th line individual, and Diz is Dramatic, 8 into 7. Papa Surf, $7.50. Spirit, 8. Double figures around Agon Alley at $11 off a shortener of 9. Perfect Puss, 12 into 11. Firma there, got a shortest 10 just back out of turn late. And La Bella Nera, Debutant has been trialling very well, 10 out to 12. And Mikatawa Miss, 15 out to 18 is the Ranky. Well, no clear lead, bit of a sprinkle of money on the top 4 or 5, but in terms of a firm, it sits around the Lisa Ladder Train Galloper number 3, Diz is Dramatic, 8 into 7.
Okay, well, she comes out of 1,000 guineas. BP does Diz is Dramatic, so you can understand there's a little bit of money there. Oh, is it 2,000 guineas even, was it? Yes, it was. 2,000
Yes,
guineas, of
behind
course
Pierre.
it was.
Yep.
Yeah, so behind Pierre. So you can understand the money there, but Time's Up was impressive on debut, and you can understand why there's a bit of money around the favourite here as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, they backed this like they already knew the result last time to the races, fair dinkum. And Time's Up, and when you start seeing a Robbie Patterson horse on their home track, first started to the races and goes round at $1.50, no wonder they were throwing it on. And look, they got themselves a result. Look, he has to step up again from this race. He's competing on a really heavy track. He's looked at and he gets the job done. And they're all the qualities you want from a good horse. And in terms of him probably getting through that ground, looked like he got through it purely on ability. So looking forward to seeing him on a slightly better surface. Fingers crossed it is that slightly better surface around that 6 bracket. So yeah, he looks an exciting horse. But again, this is a step up, isn't it? Because there are horses that competed in some good races. This is Dramatic, a Water Cree Stakes winner, competed in a Group 1. Even horses like Diagon Alley, who has competed in a Champagne Stakes last season, which was, of course, the Sharp and Smart, the White-Tack, Mr. Maestro form line, where that horse finished into 5th position. So, yep, good line in the sand race, I think, for Time's Up.
Yeah, it was $1.50, Steve, went out, and how did the numbers crunch up? And like, I mean, he didn't street them, but the first 2 did get away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, I think you got to trust the eye a little bit. There was a margin back to 3rd. I think the second horse is upside, potentially working back from a derby, early stages of hers preparation. But look, you've got to trust the money. As BP mentioned, it was heavily punted, one of the best back maideners in recent memory in the last couple of months here domestically. And I think it closed at around about $1.50 from memory. It might have opened even money, and the money flowed in for the Patterson Train Galloper. And just on that combo, Robbie Patterson and Craig Grills, 35 starts this season for 10 wins at 28%. So it's a dangerous combo, and those are the kind of stats that the market gravitates towards. So it'll be fairly firm late in the piece.
Yeah, okay, well, that's Coventine Bay as well, isn't it? Of course, that combo. Yeah, okay, pretty dangerous. So, look, the second favourite, Steve, is Peppy Hart. Look, it was good resuming, wasn't it? This is a nice second here.
Look, I've been taken by both runs. As a juvenile, got shoved in a group race or stakes race in the Castletown on a heavy deck, which I just didn't like. Still boxed on well, and a race on a run that held merit for 6. But this was second start back in October, mid-October, and this is a very good run. It's just set off tempo, and there's a real ding-donger in the last furlong or 2 with a Robbie Patterson Train Galloper, and this race rated through the roof. 3.4 lengths above par, actually made it the maiden race to follow when BP was overseas with his young ones following the cricket. And look, we haven't seen the winner at the races post this victory, so I'm not sure where that horse is at. But in terms of the second horse, back on Peppy Hart, as I mentioned, I thought it was a really good run. Bounces out of a strong maiden race, as you see there, 3-point lengths 3.4 lengths above par. Now that figure, even with the second horse and accounting where it got beaten in the margin, it holds the best figure in any horse this race, even though it's a maidener. So,
okay.
And that's in front of the likes of This Is Dramatic, as BP mentioned, did win a Watercree Stakes at 1,600 metres earlier this preparation. So, yeah, I've got it the horse to beat, Pepe Har. I think it's got a lot of improvement. Its third start, heading towards Saturday. The track conditions a bit of a query, but I think you can say that about most of these horses, purely on the low data. But yeah, 4.8, I reckon it's a chance of challenging times up in terms of favouritism.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, Rudyard in this market as well, BP. It was not a great resumption, it'd be fair to say, on the 1st of November for Rudyard. Papa Smurf's in play. Tsar Spirit in single figures as well.
Yeah. Look, I like Pepe Har. I've been waiting for a maiden race for Pepe Har, and since their day actually. So, but we see the horse up against some race winners here in the 3-year-old company. Still doesn't mean it can't win the race. So I'm sort of with Stephen as well. I think he's a huge chance in the race. Yeah, Rudyard. We all sort of go back to the day that he won first up, and where he missed the kick. He got a long way back, and he came underneath runners, and he was able to win at Rotorua. He's had a first run back where it wasn't encouraging at all. He was green. He did a lot of things wrong. He's gone back to the trials. Other horses in the race, I'm interested in Perfect Puss, the 9. I think she's a horse who's got a little bit of ability. They really are rolling the dice here. Her first up run was encouraging. Next up run, she basically did it all before the start of the race. She got very hot round at the back parade ring on Melbourne Cup Day, got stirred up, got round to the start, and again just really sweated up quite badly. And so that was a run to forget, and then she's run better next time. Look, it was a midweek maiden where the horses run second, but the horse was getting home strongly. I know the stable have a bit of reputation around here running as a galloper in Perfect Puss. So if you're trying to find something at a little bit of a price in the race, maybe in your first fours or a top 4 market, Perfect Puss might be one to look into.
Okay, Perfect Puss, Steve.
Yeah, look, it was a horse that was heavily punted on debut, spec'd at long odds, and was a really encouraging run from well back. Yeah, look, I want to see it again before it take my money, but look, they're putting it up against race winners, which you just got to take into account that the stable rate the filly in terms of ability. Look, I think she's found well enough in the market. I think she definitely starts double figures just purely on numbers.
What about Rudyard? Oh, sorry, I just want to talk about Rudyard. It's right in the market, but what do you make of it?
I probably want to see a little bit more. Its trial was okay. $6.50 I think is bottom price. I can see it turning out 1 or 2 on race day. Obviously a punting stable, which punters tend to gravitate towards, but I just want to see a little bit more as a 3-year-old. It showed enough ability as a juvenile that you'd want to keep a close eye as a 3-year-old. But yeah, just want to see a little bit more before it takes my money. The interesting run is number 3, This Is Dramatic. And I want to ask BP because we've already touched on that it's won a stakes race at 1,600 metres. Now, I think that's a bit misleading. I reckon I've marked her as a 1,100 metre horse. That Watercree Stakes was just a joke in terms of tempo. They've absolutely crawled to the 600 embarrassingly, and she was leading. And it was just a matter of whoever had the best turn of foot off a sit and sprint, and she got the job done against a nice 3-year-olds. But BP, I kind of see her as maybe a miler down the track, but right now I think dropping back in trip on the fresh side, there's no knock there, and there is a little bit of speed in the race too down the chute, and which will be encouraging for her, can just set off tempo.
Yeah, and of course when we led into that race over the 2,000 guineas, she drew wide, didn't she? Drew barrier number 11, and we were sort of struggling to try and find some of those horses that were going to lead, and there was a bit of chat that maybe, she doesn't have to lead. It was just a case that she found herself in front in that race where, they were sort of keeping up with the ambulances. They were going that sort of slow in front. So I just wonder, 12 to 1,400 metres, good barrier draw. She doesn't have to lead. I feel as though she's a bet. I keep coming back to her because she sits at a very attractive price, and with what she's done already this season, Just Is Dramatic. I mean, she's been backed already. What was she, 8s on opening, wasn't she, lads? And is now around that $7 quote. I have no issue with her coming back to 1,200 metres. I think she's a dangerous prospect in the race, and probably a one that looks a touch of overs still at $7.
Yeah, okay, so on top, ahead of Pepe Har, BP, or what's the final numbers here?
I think so. Look, just purely on value price at the moment, I'm thinking This Is Dramatic in front of sort of a Pepe Har Times Up. I don't actually think there's much between probably 4 or 5 of these runners. I really do think that they've all got a fair bit of upside. I mean, we haven't even mentioned a horse like Makatawa Miss. Diagon Alley, I mean, Diagon Alley, as I said beforehand, did run 5th in a very good Champagne Stakes. They tried her at the start of the season, beaten out of Whanganui on that really testing track, so they've pulled stumps, tried to go again and hope for the track conditions to dry up. Unfortunately, they've just found themselves still through a very wet spring, carrying on through the early part of the summer, but she's got some talent. She has ability as well, Diagon Alley, but might be best to see her on a track condition that's going to hold up. So rain doesn't fall, she's a chance. So I think it's a good race. I really do think there's a lot of chances here in a race to follow. Yeah, for sure. Pops, this is dramatic. Would you be somewhere similar here? You're obviously pretty keen on Pepe Ha.
Yeah, I'll just go the other way around. I love Pepe Ha. I thought he was a horse to follow out of that maiden race. Yeah, we probably would have been a little bit more confident in terms of if he was striking a maiden race, but look, I'm just going to bank that he's got real ability and he can topple a few horses that have won races. So Pepe Ha on top. This is dramatic. Yeah, I agree with BP. I think there is a little bit of value in the $7. I think she's potential of climbing the betting ladder and possibly being in that compressed market around Time's Up and also Pepe Ha. I don't think there'll be probably too much between those three in the marketplace tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. We better push on. Last race we want to have a look at, team, is up at Te Rapa. It's race number 7, but track conditions first, Steve. Nice dry track up there for us.
No, very similar to Trentham, to be fair. Yeah, this is getting very frustrating. It's just almost a record week in, week out. But look, soft 7 currently, Waikato. Rail out is 11 metres, which is interesting enough. I think they're just trying to protect the inner part of the track for some premier days over Christmas, New Year. And yeah, a lot of rain that's happened in the last 7 days. 44 mils have hit the track in the last 7 days. In terms of the last 24 hours, 1 mil. So not too much rain in the last 24 hours. But again, there's forecast for rain on race day, which doesn't bode well.
Okay, run us through this market. But boy, oh boy, we'll talk about even markets. We've got a $5.50 joint favourites here.
Yeah, the Eulogy 2.0 and Tavachi Princess open $6 equal fave was sealed with a kiss. They've both gone in a turn, 5.50 to 2, so both well supported, the 4 and the 10, 10 and the 4. Soph May 7 and 6.50. I'm a Rich Girl also well found. So the top 4 have all been firmers from the original price on Wednesday. 9 into 7.50 is the fluck around number 12. Family Tie, something had to give. 7 out to 8. Liberasi 7.50 out to 8.5. Double figures around Polygon, Secura Girl, and Siddharka 11 out to 14 around the Stephen Marsh trained galloper. And best of the rest is Complicate and also In the Loop 26 each of 2. So. No strong lead, as I mentioned. All 4 at the point end of the market have had plenty of interest in the first, 36 hours of trading, and have all come in at least 1 roll.
Okay. I see this market's changed a bit from last week. Tell us
Well,
about that.
I think the inclusion of Sealed with a Kiss,
okay.
an extra week, they've included this filly in the Eulogy. I think a few trainers are eyeing up what possibly could front up in the 8 carat, which we know is literally less than 2 weeks away. And all accounts is Legato's going to be there, so whether that made a few trainers a little bit sceptical where they go, possibly head towards the Eulogy at Te Rapa on the new date, which is tomorrow, obviously, the running in the 8 carat against Legato, who looks to be very hard to beat. But yeah, the inclusion of Sealed with a Kiss is the interesting runner, and with Opie Boss on the board, which we'll touch on more shortly, might have had the lead.
Yeah, fair enough. BP, plenty to choose from here. The Alan Sherrick team have got a couple in here, Brasi and Soph Mays, but chances don't end there clearly.
No, you might have a better chance of trying to predict the weather than trying to find the winner of this race, because look, it was raining 5 minutes ago. Now that's pushed on through. It's just going to be one of those days where it's going to be overcast and it'll look like raining, and it doesn't rain, and then it will rain, and then it goes away, then it comes back again. So good luck with trying to assess what the track condition will be at this early stage for a race that's going to be at 4:13 tomorrow afternoon. What's that, mate?
Should bring out a market. Pencrometer reading at 3 o'clock.
We should. But look, at this stage, soft 7, but there is a lot of grey clouds lurking. Is probably the best way of putting it, and the forecast will tell you that there's rain about too. So, yeah, look, this is a good race. It really is, isn't it? And the inclusion of Sealed with a Kiss, I think, makes this even more intriguing, because we mentioned it, and you gave it the notable mention as well, Stephen, last week when we did the Maiden of the Week. And it was really impressive. Somehow it went round at an outrageous price at what it was presented at. It gets the right split here, doesn't it? Sealed with a Kiss, and puts them away. I mean, she's beautifully bred. She's by Tarzino, about a postman's daughter. We know that the horse will cope with track conditions. Look, 1,200 metres up to 1,600 metres isn't ideal after sort of a quick turnaround with how this horse won midweek last week, but just looks to have some upside, doesn't she? She really does. And then you've got the inclusion of Opie Bosson taking the ride on this runner. I'm not really surprised that she's actually sort of taken some money sealed with a kiss. And the other thing too is she didn't go to Awapuni, obviously, and have a non-race. She did go to Hawke's Bay, yes, but there are some horses here that did travel all the way down to Awapuni and then having to come home. This horse has had a couple of extra days as opposed to travelling like the other runners. So all those little things could come into it, but yeah, I like her. I like her a lot.
Ella Postman's daughter. We know how good she was, and that was impressive, David.
Yeah, daughter by Postbone. Look, a Tarzana winning over 1,200 metres, doesn't matter if it's on debut or any time in her prep, is a big tick because you just know they're going to get over ground and they're going to improve with every race start. And I think the big asset in terms of punters looking into this race and diving into it is the Opie Bosson factor. Now, we see it obviously in the Karaka Million when they've got a number of horses in a feature race.
Yes.
They just go for one horse and one horse only, and that's the Opie Bosson Mountain. To a degree, a lesser degree obviously will be on Saturday, but they'll just look for Opie. I'm pretty sure he would have had the choice, and he's gone with number 10 and sealed with a kiss at 550. And as we've already touched on, the early money and what we'd call smart money on Wednesday afternoon was attracted towards the 10, and the reason why it's gone in half a turn.
Okay, the other joint favourite is Tavachi Princess, and look, she was backed at odds. She was 31 at certain stages. She finished up around $18 and won well in a strong field there at Trentham last time out, Steve.
It's a horse that's always been well punted in early markets, and I think the key around this horse is that it was stepping up to 7 furlongs. It's been hovering around that 11, 12, 1,300 metre mark, but it stepped up to 1,400 at Trentham. Look, they didn't go very hard in this race. They've sprinted home, and it stalked that speed set up by Wessex. And I just feel a sense of timing around the daughter by Tavachi. I was really keen on her 7 days ago at Awapuni. Tarapa, the way the race shape and the inclusion of one or two runners, I'm not as confident, but I still have her on top. You see there the overall figures, class rating, basically on par, but as I mentioned...
burnt early.
Oh, they burnt early, did they? Okay.
Is that the wrong one? No,
I think
sorry.
that might be the right other way around. But anyway, yeah, it's it was a good performance, and I think it's a horse that just has a sense of timing and should love the 1,600 on pedigree as well. So I've got her on top, but little confidence.
Well, what about the Alan Sharrock pair, Soph Mays and Labrazi, Steve? Because they would think they were nearly joint favourites last time when we reframed this market, and this is the race they come out of where they finished 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, I've got a question mark on this race, excluding the winner. I think the winner could be all right, but outside that, I've got a bit of a question mark. The overall speed rating was well below par, and I've just got a question mark on the progeny of Deeren over 1,600 metres. I know the dam, and I mentioned it last week, got over 2,000 metres and also was 5th or 6th from memory in New Zealand Cup. So it's got the pedigree on the dam side, but as I mentioned, when you're looking at horses in terms of distance range, I gravitate towards the sire versus the dam. So I've just got a bit of a question mark around Deeren. I'm yet to see his progeny really exceed strongly on fast run 1,400 metre races, suggests that they'll get to 1,600, but you've got to trust the stable. The rain, any rain on the day, Soph Mays comes into it. Yep. Probably was a more of a set against it 7 days ago because of the weather, but just with the rain that's forecast in the afternoon, you probably got to take into inclusion that Soph Mays will handle it best or better than most. But again, that 1,600 is the biggest obstacle around number 1.
Okay, BP, give us your betting plan here. We haven't even mentioned I'm a Rich Girl, good last start winner, and there has been money for it. So what's the way to play it this year's Eulogy?
Yeah, there's a bit to unfold, isn't there, in behind. Look, Polygon's a chance too, I think, with blinkers on. It'd just be nice if she can jump away with them. But I'm with Sealed with a Kiss. I'll go with her just in front of Tavachi Princess. But I'll be looking at this race a number of times to see what In the Loop can do, see how that horse can jump out of that maiden race where it was booming home. Are we going to see a horse running like that horse running on and be an Oaks prospect, and those sort of runners that might be, Royal Stakes chances maybe as well, as we mentioned, the 8 carat or the Royal Stakes over further distance over the 2,000 metres. So, yeah, I think there's a bit to take away from this race tomorrow.
Yeah, it's always fun, isn't it? That's all part of it with the 3-year-old fillies and the like, isn't it? When you just try and pick one out for a little bit later, that's all part of it, isn't it, BP?
Oh, it is, and that's why, you know, when punters are trying to find futures options, you know, like for Derby prospects and all those sorts of things, this is when you're trying to pluck one at a price early doors to see if that's the one you want to be following all the way through to the grand final, and you're on a big price and you've got the golden ticket. But yeah, I think there's a bit to take away from this race, and there's a lot of horses here that have shown promise, and they get that opportunity at stakes level tomorrow.
Okay, BP with Seal with the kiss, Steve with Tavachi Princess. Guys, we've got to wrap it up. It's best bet time. Pops, we'll come straight back to you. Now, we had a winner last week, didn't we? I'm sure we did.
Well, yeah, wow, it was a pretty close one, wasn't it? It nearly ran second, but it didn't. It won SVR, and we'll go White Noise. Joe, really like this horse's chances tomorrow in race number 2. This horse looks very well placed. There's a few horses here, including the Derby winner in the race in Asterix, who's trialled well, but we know that this horse can get going. And look, he's not first up effectively because he's run well through the spring and he's run well through the Melbourne Spring Carnival. A little bit of forgiveness in the track, not an issue. Kelsey Hannon's won on the horse on Foxbridge Plate Day. I think he's a cracking bet there tomorrow. White Noise in race 2.
Yeah, very good. White Noise, yes, back from Aussie. Paul, I'm going to be Paul today, I think, and he's gone with, surprise, surprise, Charm Star. Sticks with the ship from last week, Steve, no shock there. Paul, our best man, Charm Star, obviously in the Manawatu Cup. Not getting as big a price as we did last week, but look, building towards a win, no doubt. That Wanganui Cup run, very good, and we know the quality of the mare. So as long as the track doesn't get too bad, which we wouldn't want the track too bad, would that be fair, Steve? Or?
It's a fair assessment, yep.
Yeah, okay. He'd be Charm Star. Over to you.
Yeah, I'll go to Trentham, the feature, the Group 2, race 7, the Manawatu Challenge Stakes, Darcy Labella. She's probably the most informed horse in the country, probably outside her stablemate in Cinerama, but there's probably not too much between them. But in terms of the 1400, Darcy Labella, I've made her the player of the day, not just at Trentham, but up and down the country. Current price $3. I think that's a little bit of a spoil. I think it could put probably somewhere between $2.50 and $3 on close, but Darcy Labella just flying at the minute. And I talk about Darcy Labella just quickly. Gee, it would be tempting to chuck a late nomin for the Telegraph. I mentioned this a few weeks ago. I know Alan Sharrock, he likes to take his time.
He'll be watching too, Alan, don't worry.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, 100%.
He'll be listening to me, yeah, right.
Exactly, yeah.
But look, he's already indicated this horse is heading towards Hawke's Bay. Probably target the first 2 legs potentially and chase her Group 1 victory there. But, gee, if she won that race on Saturday and put a gap on them, dropping back to 1200, we know 1400 horses operate well in the Telegraph. It'd be very tempting to chuck an informed mare in a late nom, but...
Okay, we'll see. Well, if you think $3 is a spoil, hold on to your hats. Here's the price boost poll. Get onto Twitter, TAB Racing at Twitter. Vote for who you want to see boosted tomorrow afternoon. The top 2 will get boosted, and I've got a funny feeling one of them will be Darcy Labella. But get your votes in; they all count. If you leave a comment underneath the post, you'll go into the chance to win a $100 bonus bet. Last week's winner at T Yaxley NZ at T Yaxley. Good on you, T Yaxley. I hope you use your $100 bonus bet wisely. No deductions is back. Well, so it's back. It never left us. We're going through to the 31st of March for no deductions. I know BP will be very, very pleased to hear about that. And bonus back blitz promo. Trentham to Rapa, Randwick and Flemington. 2nd, 3rd or 4th. You get your bonus bet back up to $50. First 4 races at those 4 venues. Thanks for joining us, BP. You'll be looking forward to tomorrow.
Certainly will be, yep. And then, of course, the countdown to Boxing Day races.
Yes, exactly, Steve. Boxing Day races. When markets will be up for those?
Wednesday, next Wednesday. They come out on Wednesday for a Monday meeting. Always lose track of the days at this time of the year. But, yeah, well, the last show for the year, next Friday, and we'll be touching on all those features.
You beauty, you beauty. Thanks for joining us again on the Leg Up. We'll see you for the last show in 7 days' time.